Hey guys, there is not that much time left in 2023, which may be a blessing for some of you. It may be a huge opportunity for even more of you. Either way, as we close out the year together, I want to look back at some of the most appreciated guests, as told by you guys, that we've had so far in 2023. So that's why we're doing our top 10 takeaways from the first 10 months of 2023. In this recap episode, you're going to hear highlights from my friend Leslie Hall from the ZigZag Stripe. Oh, such a great episode with Jessica Throneburg talking all about plus size and what's happening in that market, as well as email marketing with Jane Kasper. 1.5 million business and marketing ideas with Michiko Seto, Sarah Derscholtz, and so many more. You guys, we've had some really amazing guests in the last year, and I'm excited to give you a few highlights this week as we look back. Now, when we decide to close out the year together over the next several weeks, I'm excited to help you with some holiday marketing ideas, how to finish the year strong, but also what is it going to take to set up your year for success in 2024? We'll do some industry insights and just a look at what's happening around the boutique world and how you can be ready for what's going to come in 2024. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all of the amazing guests we have had so far this year. As always, please send me a message. I'd love to know what episodes have been your favorite. Who else would you love to hear from? What topics would you love to hear? Send me a message at AJ Alderson on Instagram, and I would be happy to connect. All right, have an awesome week, you guys. I hope you love this recap from our top 10 takeaways from the first 10 months of 2023.
Let's talk about your business, strategy, and the juicy details of what actually works, from mainstream fashion to fashion on Main Street and the entire ecosystem behind it. How do we scale your company and do it with the balance and the happiness that we all seek? Let's hear from those insiders, experts, and strategists that actually make it happen. I'm your host, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, and I can't wait to chat.
My friend Laura Horwath, who is the owner and founder of Ferne Boutique with 4 locations around the Detroit area in Michigan, is here not only to tell us how she grew her brick and mortar locations, how she maximized community and chamber of commerce, and really just to become the queen of networking, in my opinion. Are you involved, just connect the dots for me, because I think there's a lot of people listening who, whether they're online or brick and mortar, I don't think it matters, but they have a chamber of commerce in their town or a YP or whatever these organizations are. Can you name a couple of those? And also, how do you find the value in those organizations? Because it sounds like, you've become a master networker. I don't think everyone in the hub that I've talked to on this, I don't feel like everyone's connecting those dots, that there's opportunity in those local organizations.
When I started, it was really inserting myself, like I said, in the business community. So the chambers of commerce, any of your sort of organizations that have networking or business type functions within them. There's, like I mentioned, Junior League for women. That is a very great way to connect with other women. There's junior leagues across the US that I am no longer a member, but that is where you meet women that have the same philanthropic, mindset as you. There's definitely young professionals groups. I think there's also a lot of cities have these sort of smaller networking, passing leads back and forth type groups as well. But when I was new, all I could think about, and I never thought this way, if I build it, if I open a store, they're just going to come in the door. No, they're not. They're not going to. That's never going to happen. And it'll be 8 years in August. And we've had the times of opening the store and the people coming in the door. Well, that's come and gone. I think whether you do $1 million a month or $1 a month, nobody is I'm going to drive around and see where I can walk into today. That's just not a mindset anymore. It's changed so much. So really making sure that I was able to get in places where I wanted people to know who we were. There's Main Street associations in some states as well. So downtowns have, they can opt into a program called Main Street Association. And then that's a directory for you. You pay maybe $200 or $300 a year, but they have events, a website. If you're in a community where people really like to support the local businesses and they're really all about that, that's a great place to be in like a Main Street association or directory, because you're getting that connection to other businesses, potentially collaborating with other businesses, and then you're really getting almost marketed or promoted without spending, breaking the bank if you don't have the funds when you start.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because sometimes I think the misconception is if I join this association, they're going to market me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. You have to market you. You just get to do it in their container.
Yeah.
So before I started the hub, I don't know if you knew this, but before I started the hub, I was in economic development. And then we also ran our Chamber of Commerce and our Small Business Development Center out of our office. And we did it for the county in 4 cities. So this was like my life. And it was always the same. Like the people who wanted to cancel were the people who were like, what are you doing for me? But really, like, we're facilitating and hosting all these events so that you can market you.
Yes.
So I love that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to the marketing seems to be the last thing every small business owner thinks about.
Yeah.
We have bills to pay. We have people to employ. We have to sell stuff. We have to buy stuff. We have all this stuff. And then if no one's coming in or buying it, it's like, oh, but there's that thing that helps all of that stuff happen. So yeah, you got to like think about marketing and sales in a different way other than just social media ads or a billboard or a TV commercial. That is advertising. Advertising is not marketing. Marketing is not advertising. So those two things are, at this point, I think with the internet boom and how it's been, I think it's getting lost. A lot of it's getting lost. And I had this conversation with my friend yesterday who's in business as well. And it's just like, we want to be in the community. We want to talk to people and tell them our stories right over here on this street.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep doing that, because that long-term loyal customer that's walking in the door is like, oh, I see Laura at these events every week. I saw Laura last month at this thing and Laura goes to that. So that's your inadvertent marketing that you don't feel like it's making you any money, but it's like definitely a marathon, not a sprint. That takes time.
You're going to be joined today by Jessica Throneburg, the founder and CEO of Little Details Boutique. Jess is a longtime friend of mine and member of the Hub. And I really appreciate about Jess the fact that she always approaches issues or obstacles or stumbling blocks in our industry with a can-do attitude and a willingness to look for solutions to problems rather than just vent about them.
You're full size inclusive boutique. And there's so much conversation on this. What works? What doesn't work? I tried it. It was a flop for me. If someone is going to be a size inclusive boutique, talk to me about maybe your top 3 things they must know in order to sell size inclusive items.
So let me just go ahead and say that this is my 4th attempt at being size inclusive. And when I say it's my 4th attempt, like I tried it back in 2013 when we first started, realized I wasn't getting the best quality. So then when I asked myself, why did those items not sell? It was because the fit and the fabric were terrible. And so then I tried it again when we actually went into like a little vendor mall before we went into our first storefront. And so I tried it there, didn't work. And so when we went into our storefront in Garner, we had 1,200 square feet. And I remember thinking, like, who is the demographic here? Like, are we going to get plus size customers? And there was a Lane Bryant in our shopping center. And so I remember thinking, like, if Lane Bryant is here, then that means that that customer is nearby. And so tried it again, but we just didn't have the space for it. It felt like back then, my 1,200 square foot store had 5 feet of back room. It was just very small. We rented like a storage space to like house like back stock. It was just really not a great fit for us, but we like weathered that for 3 years and then went into our 5,200 square foot store in March of 2020. And I need y'all to know, like, that was 10 days before the pandemic shut us down, which was terrible. But I was like, you know what, like, we're going to try it here. Everything I clearanced was plus size. But what I wasn't doing in that storefront or in any of the other times was I was not modeling those clothes. And so when the pandemic hit and I had a brand new store that we had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own personal money on. And I had no website because everything that was on the website was old product that we had clearanced from the old store and had sold out. So I had nothing to sell, but we were closed for 6 weeks. Like, I mean, it was insane. So then you think like, how can you like get through this? And so we started doing live sales, but not with like comments sold, not all fancy. Like we were manually invoicing people on our live sales. And then we were doing 45-minute Zoom calls with people or like FaceTime calls to sell product to people because they couldn't come in our store, but they could go to Target, which was across from us, and they were packed. And I'm like, we ain't going down like this. So I was putting myself in the clothing on these videos, and I was showing people, like, if I'm on a 45-minute FaceTime and Ashley's like, hey, how does that pink dress fit? Well, girl, let me go slip that on for you and let me show you. And what I was finding is that people were very much responsive to the fact that I am plus size and I'm putting my clothes on. And then I'm like, well, you should model that. And I'm like, I should, shouldn't I? And so now if you look at our social media, it's my social media manager and myself, like we're just taking our photos on an iPhone. We're not fancy. There's no professional photographer. It's just us. But we are literally trying for everything that is size inclusive to do these side-by-side shots. And the feedback from our customers has been so big because they're like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see two different body types side by side.
Yes.
And sometimes the vendor cuts things differently for plus. So there might be a keyhole cut out in the small through large, but it's not in the plus size. Or there might be a different type of skirt to the dress in a small through large. And maybe it's more of a body contrast, but in the plus size, it's an A line. And so it's showing it side by side to be like, there are differences. Here's what this looks like. And that has been huge for us. And I recognize that not everyone who carries plus is plus size as the owner. But for me, being able to say, like, I'm carrying clothing that I can wear. And so if you walk in the store and you see me, there are things here I can sell and that I can fit in. And that if you feel comfortable seeing me when you walk in the store and you're my size, like, girl, I got you. We have a spot for you. And it's not a space that is secluded in the back corner that says plus. It is side by side with everything else. And so you can shop with your friends and you don't feel like you're being ostracized to the one back corner of the store that only like 5 people go to. It's, hey, this is an experience and you're with your people and you guys can all shop the same.
I have so many things I want to say right now. I love all of that. That was so good. But can we be so bold to say this? Because I love that you called this out. And I feel like I've had this conversation hundreds of times on this topic. You cannot successfully sell plus size clothing if you do not have a plus size model.
Right. And it has to be a plus size model who's not like a large and a half. It needs to be someone who's kind of filling it out a little bit. And I will say, like, it's frustrating for me as a plus size woman. Like, I'm a size 18 and I tell everybody, like, I'm very open about this is my size. If you're in our VIP group, you know my bra size. Like we're you know everything about me. I'm an open book. And it's very frustrating for me to get plus size sometimes and order it and think like, this is going to be great. I already envision like what this is going to look like on Molly and I, and then to not be able to fit in it and to like order, like, I know, like if I'm an intro, I'm like in the middle. If I'm in this size, I'm in like this brand, I'm in the middle. And to get brands sometimes, or to get products from brands sometimes and not be able to fit in it at all. And to know that I can't sell that now. If I can't take a photograph with that product on and they don't see me in it, then they don't think that's available in plus, first of all. And second of all, they know it runs small, and then therefore they're not even going to try it. And that's what's frustrating. And that's what I'm trying to like really kind of give feedback on with my vendors is like, hey, just FYI, I got this dress in. I couldn't even get it over my hips. Like, it's not a dress. It's like a crop top with some extra fabric at the bottom. And I'm trying to give that feedback because for me, I know that could have been a winner had the cut been a little better. And so it's just trying to help people like realize like it kind of sucks. Like, I'm very confident in my body. I'm, but it kind of hurts my feelings sometimes when I can't wear stuff. And then for me, what I'm getting very adamant about is if I can't wear it, then I can't sell it. And then this is a miscut for me. And then we need to work together as a vendor to be like, hey, this needs to go back because now this is just going to collect dust. Like I can't sell it on web. And in the store, if they know that I can't wear it, they're just not, no one wants to size up. Like no one wants to be like, I'm an XL and now I'm wearing the 3X. And I think that that's something that you have to be comfortable like talking to your vendors about. It's like, hey, this fit weird or this was odd, but being kind and being like, is there something else I could buy instead? Like, can we trade?
Yeah. My friend Angela Schmook, who is the VP of Operations and Marketing at Road Runners. I'm sure you've gotten the Road Runners catalog or you've been to one of their showrooms in Vegas or Dallas or Atlanta. They're massive and they support so many really great wholesale brands.
Maybe this is a question a lot of people have about ordering in home and gift versus apparel is talk to me about the timelines. When you're ordering home and gift, do you have a lot of opportunity to order immediates or is it more advantageous to order ahead of time and get in on, these early product releases?
So that's an excellent question. And I'm going to give you lots of different answers to that, to that question. Because we represent such a diverse range of products, I'm going to give you like a couple of different examples of how you can buy and gift and home. So we are already selling fall and holiday. So we'll talk about early buy. I think you guys in apparel call them like pre-book. And so early buy is a little bit different. It is typically offered by your larger brands. It's typically not a smaller brand. So larger brands offer it so that they can sort of get a pulse on what's going to be hot so that they can go ahead and pre-book larger numbers. They might think the pink is going to sell best, but lo and behold, it's the blue. So early buy and gift and home really is advantageous to do in advance as a retailer. And I think that's a piece that's really different. Typically, you're offered all kinds of perks for helping the supplier out by placing that order early. So typically the way it works, the larger your order, the larger the perks. And they offer everything from freight caps to free freight, to discounts off of the goods, to dating, to free product. The perks really, really vary. And early buys sometimes can start as early as February to buy for holiday for the following year, which is great because it's fresh in your mind of what sold, what didn't sell, what you still have on hand that you want to re-up or add in addition to. So there's early buy. Then there are also monthly specials. So that's something that working with your sales rep, that is like this big giant perk that you don't get when you're ordering directly from a brand. So every month we have what we call road specials. And these are things that your sales reps have that working with your rep, they'll say, hey, if you order $25 more, I can save you $100 on your freight. So there are those monthly specials. And then just your regular, everyday, let's place an order. That varies fairly widely. So we have some brands that are larger brands that will have a larger opening order. It could be $250, $300. And then we have brands that literally have no opening order. You can start with a brand by just ordering one case pack, which might be 3 salt and pepper shakers. So it varies greatly. And that's one of the reasons that you want to work with a sales rep too. If you have X open to buy, maybe you're a really small store, you're an online store, and you've got $1,000, maybe even only have $500 to invest in gift and home. If you work with your sales rep, they can help you really get a wide variety of products with a low buy-in and a low number of items that you have to bring in so that you can experiment with some products.
Lyn is a serial entrepreneur and also a famed video producer. You've seen Lyn's work with South by Southwest, the TV series American Made, and his interviews with literally hundreds of high-profile entrepreneurs, from the founders of Zappos to Dell to Starbucks and many, many more.
So if you think about like entrepreneurs today, we're fortunate enough here at the Hub to work with so many small business owners from around the world. What are the stories that are most important for small business owners to tell? What should they be capturing and sharing with their audience?
Yeah, no doubt the number one story, hands down, like you got to have a great founding or origin story. Your founder's story is going to be the one you're asked about the most for as long as you own your company and for years after that. And I always ask founders that I film, what stories do they share the most? And it always goes back to that. Now you've got product stories and brand stories and it's customer stories, and you got to have those. But the one you want to optimize, you want to have different links of, tailored for different audiences, your founding story that it articulates how you came up with the idea, why you're doing this, and why you're kind of the best person to do that. I mean, just you don't overcomplicate it, keep it super simple, but you want to make it compelling. You want to grab their attention with it. You want to make sure that this is something they're going to remember. So that'd be the number one, is the founding story. The second would be probably, there's an argument sometimes when I talk to some of my storytelling friends, whatever, but I'd say your customer story. Now, the reason it's not, you don't always have a customer story. Sometimes you don't have a customer. You have an idea yet, you haven't bought it or has your services, whatever. So it's not always the best one, but you could still have a hypothetical customer story, someone who's using your product or will use your product and how they're going to benefit from. And I call that more of a problem solution. Here's the problem that the market has. Here's a solution that I have created to solve that problem. And here's the results that you're going to get from that. So the customer example, the customer story is going to help you articulate how someone loves your product, how they've used your product, how they've recommended it to someone else. And you can talk about it using their emotional responses, because you're expected to be very emotional about your product, very passionate about it, very into it. But when you can say, oh my God, for instance, my Share Snacks company, and this is the company I have over here, it's an organic snack. We have a guy that buys 6 pounds of trail mix a month. It's bananas. And he has flown to Austin to see our kitchen, to meet our team. He's our number one guy. Like, we made a specific box just for him. So I can use that example, and I don't have to brag or anything. I just give him the facts. 6 pounds, that's a lot of freaking trail mix to eat. I can't even eat that much, and I own the company. So you want to have those customer stories that demonstrate how compelling your product or service is, the problem that it's solving. And if you don't, just create a hypothetical one. So founding story, customer story, and that problem solution story would be the top three.
One of the things I admire about ZigZag Stripe is how Leslie, from the very beginning, really did build a community around her business. And if you guys have followed for any period of time, you know what I think of community. It is absolutely everything in business. And when you go into the ZigZag Stripes Facebook group for their business, you'll notice that there are just as many posts in that group of customers talking about how they love the product and also sharing selfies and building one another up and truly being such a positive space for one another. There's just as many posts about that as there are actually showing and selling products. That's a really, really incredible achievement. How did you get your community off the bat sharing so many selfies with one another?
One of the things over the years, when especially just being in the industry now for 10 years and seeing just the change in myself. And, when I started the business, I was 30, I'm 40 now, there's a lot of things that change from 30 to 40. And, when we started, we've always been about providing clothes for women of all sizes. And that was, I have fluctuated in weight so much over 10 years of like 50 to 60 pounds up and down, And so I've always wanted to encourage women to just learn to love themselves and to learn to be comfortable in their own skin, and like, don't follow the trend of what everybody's saying. Like, nobody fits in a box, so why are you putting yourself there? And so I feel like that is kind of what has really made our community as good as it is because that's kind of, like, I don't want to say practice what you preach, but like that is what we've always been preaching. Is like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be a little quirky. It's okay to have an edge to you. You don't have to fall into such a strict, criteria of the norm. And who wants to be normal anyways? It's overrated. There's nothing normal about me. And and so I think really that's what has changed our community, is because like, it's okay, be you. Do you want pink hair? Rock it. Be confident in it. If you are, do you want to wear crazy eyeshadow? Do it. Why, like, why not? Like, if you want to mix your patterns and your color, like, go for it. And as long as you're confident in what you're doing or wearing or whatever it is, like, just own it.
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
kind of where I feel like it's come from.
So many of the successful retailers I know come with a both retail art side of the brain and retail science side of the brain. Now, the retail art side is most common to come by, right? It's the love of the product and the customers and the marketing and all the reasons we get into this business for the most part. But the retail science can be a little bit trickier to come by, and that's inventory management and the numbers and financing and the things and the metrics that really make our businesses grow. Today, I'm really excited because we're going to talk a little bit about both sides of this brain, but also what does it really take to make the retail science side of your business come to life and let those numbers and inventory management spreadsheets really speak to you. Today, I'm talking to my friend Amy, the founder of Katsch Boutique. When you sit down, what reports are most important for you to run? And especially, again, thinking of those who are just starting with an open to buy, and they're analyzing turn and some of these things. What is like your must do when it comes to your date with your numbers each week?
Yeah, so every day I look at the sales report. So we have 3 storefronts and an online. So every day is an important day. I know some retailers that are like online only, they do big launches once a week. And so you can kind of scale it to what you need. But every day I look at my sales and I do a daily sales report by store. And so I look at how our sales doing each day, but also each week, because each day could really, I mean, if it's a snowstorm, right, your sales are going to be affected, but how it rolls to your week and your month is really important. So every day I look at our sales, and then every week I pull a bestseller report. So I'll look at how my total week sales ended up, and then I look at bestseller. So that's total company and then each store. And we look at what stores sold the most of certain styles. And if I have a style that does really well at one store or a brand, we'll move inventory between the stores to sell out quickly. And that's a way to increase your turn number. So if Liverpool is doing really well in one location and it's slow in another, I'll start sending more inventory to that location that's performing. Each month I look at a subclass and a vendor report to see if my sales and my inventory are in line. And for example, like sweaters, usually one of our biggest categories of business, it can go up to 28% of our business in some months can just be in the category of sweaters. So I have to make sure that my inventory penetration is in line with that. And penetration is just a fancy word for like percent to total. So if 20% of your sales are in sweaters, then 20% of your inventory and your receipts should be in sweaters. So those are kind of the big ones that I look at each week and each month.
I have been so excited to bring Michiko Seto, the founder and owner of over 11 boutiques in Delaware, to the show. She's been a part of the Boutique Hub, the Boutique Summit. She's been a part of our mastermind and retail boot camp. And so I have loved getting to know her infectious personality, and her super smart business strategy. wish, like, if I could bottle up one thing from you and just spill it to everybody, it would be just how contagious your energy is. And we all have that within us. But it's so easy to get down on this, woe is me, my sales suck, blah, de, blah. But this is possible for everybody. People will buy what you're selling. It is your energy that you're selling. It's not the product that you're selling. That is the biggest lesson of all of this.
It is your excitement, because people know I love my products. They know my staff love my products. And that comes down to your hiring too, because I'm always, if people haven't been in my stores in 16 years, this probably isn't the right match to work. Because if you don't love my stores, if you love my stores, you would have been shopped here in 16 years. That's kind of my attitude on things. If you haven't ever been in, it's a harder sell, I feel like. I feel everybody who's successful with me loved my products, was my customer beforehand. And that helps right there. That saves so much training time and energy there with that, And so, yeah, I think your attitude, and I won't let those things steal my time in my life, I guess. Or I know it always works out. It is just business is a lot of times what I say to my guys, because people are like, you got ripped off and you're not, they're very upset that I got ripped off or I got things stolen. I said, what is it going to do now? We have to live and learn, and how can we prevent it better in the future? So I cannot I'm not going to buy into bad energy. I'm all about energy around me. And I have to have people that have good energy around me. You can feel that, because I don't want the Debbie Downers, I want the people going my way, getting on the train or get off the tracks. That's kind of my attitude with it.
I want to talk about that, because over 16 years and with 11 stores, you've managed a lot of people. And so I'm sure there's just leadership after leadership lesson that you've been through. Talk to me through some of those high points, like lessons that you've learned.
Well, I'm a person that trusts everybody, which I've learned a lot the hard way, and I'm telling you, I trust everybody till they burn me. And that can be very bad, because you don't realize what you get stolen from you and things. And, I do believe everybody, and I am still that. That's why I have to have other people buffer me, because it is, they pre-screen and everything, because they're like, Misha, why did you feel sorry? And why did you hire? And I do sometimes, because I believe them, they want to change or whatever, So it is. And I've learned every time I break my rules, whether it is, asking, have you shopped in our shops? Have you been in any stores? Well, tell me about that. I believe everything they tell me. Like, I've got somebody right now, everything they told me was not true. And it's going to come back to bite us. And you spend too much time hiring someone, training someone, and you want to build a relationship. I want them to come in and have fun and want to do the job. So, I feel like it's important, and depending what level of group people you're looking for, like leadership, you've got to do, I do strength finders and Colby tests. Every time I break that rule, it comes back to bite me, because it may not be that I'm not going to hire them because of it, but I also know how to work with them better by understanding those kind of analytics and knowing what to do with them. And I think that is a big part of it. So I use Strength Finder's book. It's a very simple book you can get on Amazon. In the back, there's a thing, it's a code. They can go do the test, and it'll tell you about them, what their strengths are. Because I know I need certain combinations. Being small, a lot of small stores, we don't have like 10 people in the store at once working. You have to have the right people that are the creative people versus the people that can receive the products and ship it. And you got to have a certain combination. And, and I find those kind of tests definitely do help me sit back and look, is this a right fit? Is this a good, good for our business and where we need to go, without everybody being upset or in turmoil or whatever, because everybody wants to do the same job and no one wants to do this part of the business. So, those kind of things can help a lot too, I think, as far as helping people there. And, we do weekly Zoom calls. We do live in-person trainings and so forth. And we have first of all, we have a good screening process now. We have a hiring 365-day program we have instituted, because I have people that are older. I only have them for so long, as well as for their health and different things. Plus, there's not affordable housing down here, so I have to keep putting lots of people in the funnel. So we have all different ways that we get people into our funnel. We have a set screening, a pre-screening on the phone, and then 2 interview process. If they're looking for full-time or leadership, then they're going to go into taking some, like a strength finder test, possibly Colby if it's going to be higher up. And then we have an online training program. We have just moved our current platform all into one, where we have our handbook, our policies, our procedures. I mean, I have, and I'm still a paper girl in a lot of ways. Like we have an opening closing checklist that they turn in with their closing paperwork. And I did a video for every little step of that checklist, from how to straighten the rack, clean the rack, tighten the rack, do this, whatever it may be in the stores, because people don't know. And I'm all about tell, show, try, do. And I know it's repetition more than ever in our lifetime for people getting trained. So we put them through a whole entire training system, product training, perfect to get the perfect purchase, how to greet, tone of voice, all the way to the thank you. And then I added on a whole other section because we can, meet people, greet them, build a relationship, ask the right questions, get the products, upsell them, thank them. But then the next key is getting them back in. And that's where, it's key to have a great rewards program. Right? It's key to have, my guys have a list to promote. Like we are the concierge of our town. My guys know every event coming up in the town or every event coming in our store, or you know what? Go over across the street to our store treasures. They're serving chocolate wine today. I mean, we promote. And that is something if you teach your people to promote and talk, you can find staff, you can get customers back in. They will bring their friends once we tell them our bring a friend program. That is the art of promotion to me is a big part of retail now.
An amazing couple that I have been so blessed and so lucky to get to spend time with this last year are here to tell you all about working together, and not only working together, but how they have scaled an awesome business, maximizing systems and processes and love languages of their team members along the way.
Anthony, I know you're so good at analyzing on the marketing piece, I would say, like the SEO and the traffic and understanding, like you said, is this model performing, or is it the product that's performing? All those pieces. Walk me through a day in the life of your brain when it comes to marketing and how you start to analyze those processes to help Amy better understand the social media and the marketing piece, but also the buying piece. What are the things you're looking for?
Oh boy, that's a big question, Ashley. So
margins.
It's really no, it's really just like so I didn't have a background in boutique, obviously, as well, but I came from more of an analytical background in the agriculture industry. So it's really just finding like sometimes I come to work, it's like, okay, what am I going to find today that could help? And then it's thinking through the process and figuring out, okay, what metric would work well. And so sometimes it's a little non-traditional in terms of like the verbiage the boutique uses and the marketing world uses, but a lot of it revolves around margin or, what's working in any of the social medias or email campaigns, and, and then why did it work and how can we replicate it and grow that?
That's so good. So how do you communicate that on a daily basis? How do you take what you found and make changes and implement it? And how do you argue it out when you disagree?
24/7 all over. Just kidding. We do metric meetings with our team. And so once every 2 weeks, we're meeting with each individual here, and we have big goals as a team. And then we break those up into action items every 2 weeks. So we just chink away at it. We have a big vision meeting planned here soon, and I have 2 folders this big that scare everybody. And he takes it to the team and breaks them down into little ones, but we get there that way. Instead of the way that I have with the big folders. And so we just check in every 2 weeks. We all work on something together and individually and get those knocked off.
Yeah. So like a great example right now is the person that runs our website. We're working with some after purchase upsells, right? And it's like you have all the options in the world to do. And it's like, okay, so where do you start? And then how do you get better at it? And it's just, a lot of times it's honestly, and this is Amy's help, but just starting, right? Just do the first thing. Like I can get ahead of myself and never start something because it's overwhelming or I'm just not quite sure how to do it, but just start it and then measure it and then get it better. So we're working with like after purchase upsells right now and figuring out the right combination of product to that complements whatever the customer's purchasing. And then just increasing the upsell percentage a little bit until finally it's like, okay, I think we got this, we understand it, and then moving on to the next thing. So that's like an example of something we would work through on our metric meetings.
Jane is not only a longtime member of the Hub and a part of our mastermind, but also a speaker at the Boutique Summit and in past a speaker at Western Summit. I really value the background, the research and the knowledge that Jane brings to this conversation and every conversation that she's a part of on the business marketing topic. She's super analytical and she knows her stuff. So let's talk about some of those tricky things that keep you up at night, changes in regulation in text message marketing and some of the other marketing channels in your business. Meet my friend Jane Kasper. I feel like across so many channels, in the last 2 years especially, this has become an issue, whether it's with text marketing, whether it's with email marketing, whether it's with handicap accessibility on e-commerce websites. We've seen more and more small businesses be taken to court or have, a C&D at minimum sent to them for not having some of these basic boxes checked, we'll say. So talk to me specific about what has happened. There's been a number of lawsuits, even with boutiques that we know, for some of the practices they had with text marketing. Talk to me about those regulations and some things that we should all be looking for so that we don't get sued as well.
Okay, so TCPA compliance is difficult because it's actually written out for telephone calls. And the issue with that is that sometimes there's a gray area. So for instance, like if you're in Florida, you have to be able to, it's stated as callback, but it can be legally digested as contact as well, right? So you need to ensure that you have two-way texting at minimum. If you don't have two-way texting, or Florida also has something in place where if they repeatedly try to reach you and you don't respond to them, that's also in violation of TCPA. So TCPA was put in place during the Ronald Reagan administration, and it's regarding telemarketing, right? Because we all remember when you're little and, it's like 8 p.m. and the phone rings right after dinner, and then your dad answers and you're like, oh, this poor soul, right? And he's like, it is 8 p.m. at night. And so now all you have to do is say like, hey, can you let me know how I opted in specifically? And then they take you off their list, right? But that's where the do not calls list came into place. So there are regulations as far as when you can call. All of the other states, besides Washington and Florida, it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That means if you live in Idaho, I live in Idaho. If you live in Idaho and you send out a text at 8:30 in the morning, it's 7:30 for all of your people in California. That's against the law. You cannot send a text message more than twice in a day. That is also against the law. For whatever reason, Florida has 3 times, and usually Florida is much more stringent on everything. But you also have to keep in mind that the auto responders are included in that, right? So if someone abandons a cart, and then you also send a text message in the morning and a text message at night, you're in violation. And there are smart sending, like say safe sending, smart sending in most of these platforms. So you can set it like if someone has received something in the last 16 hours, do not send a message, right? And that's best practices for email. So that should already be in place on your email just to help prevent a high unsubscribe rate. But it's in place for legal reasons on the texting side.
My friend Emily McCarthy has not only built an amazing personal brand based off of her own designs, both in print and apparel, but she's also built a wonderful e-commerce business and a growing brick and mortar business in Savannah, Georgia. She's done a great job of marrying the concepts of home and gift and lifestyle together with apparel. And her apparel line sells more in coterie than, say, magic. How do you think, like, if someone's listening and they're weighing, man, should I move from having my own brick and mortar, my own retail business, into designing my own pieces and having my own brand? What do you think are some pros and cons or things that people need to think about and weigh before they make that decision?
Are we talking about clothing in particular, or just?
Yeah, well, clothing in particular, I would say, but if you also wanted to say clothing maybe versus home and gift products, what are pros and cons if I should create my own line?
Home and gift, your risk is going to be a lot lower. Luckily, there's so many companies in the U.S. that provide a great private label, they call it digital printing. So you can easily drop your own artwork into a lot of different products, and it allows you to take on very low inventory, You lose a little bit of quality control with that, like color consistencies and things like that. But we were able to have our own products in the store without ordering like thousands of each, say, coffee mug or, tote bag. So it was kind of a great way to get into the product design without taking a huge risk. And if we only wanted to try 6 placemats, like we could only order 6, which was nice. And we could test our customer. And I think that helped us figure out who our customer was, what they were buying. We learned a lot about quality control and the types of products that held up well and did not. So there's a lower risk. There's obviously a lower return in that also, but it's a great way to get started. Clothing is a whole nother animal, to be honest. There's a lot more that goes into the clothing than gift and paper and stationery. It's a big risk when it comes to minimums are going to be really high. It's one thing if you're taking existing fabrics and you're having garments made with like fabrics that already exist. In our case, we're designing all of our own fabrics. So we have to have like printing minimums for printing our yardage. Our solids are all like custom colored, like everything is custom printed specifically for our line. So you've got to have a certain amount of styles per fabrics. Even within those styles, you've got to have a certain minimum, like, for like one top in 3 different colors, we have to reach a minimum for that. But it is really rewarding and it is really fun. I would say when you're mass producing the clothing, your margins are obviously going to be a lot higher and you do have the room to do wholesale. And I think setting your wholesale and your retails from the very beginning is so important. It's hard to think about, well, what do you think, say this top will sell for, and you set a retail, but if you're not building in a wholesale margin in there from the beginning, like you can't really go backwards. Like you've got to establish from the very beginning that you do want to expand the clothing line to like reach other retail businesses. So if you do want to manage a wholesale business and retail, like you've got to build in your margins from day one.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you loved it. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review down below for a chance to be one of our featured listeners each and every week. For more information on our spirit of community over competition and how to access complete show notes and bonus downloads from our guests, head on over to theboutiquehub.com and join the community. We'll see you next week.